In this video, I want to talk about incentives. An incentive is something that triggers you or stimulates you to do something. An incentive can be out of necessity, that is also often a deterrent away from something, or it can be just an addition, something that seems desirable onto you, but it doesn't have to be desirable in the long run. So, an incentive is as a bait. For example, I'm going to give you an example now. Let's say you're in a supermarket and someone enters in and says, "Give me the money." He says it to the cashier, "Give me the money." The cashier is thinking, "No, you're not getting the money." But if that individual pulls a gun and says, "Give me the money," now there's an incentive for the cashier to hand over the money. Why? Because her safety is endangered and her safety is important. She may even lose her life if he pulls the trigger. So this is the incentive for her to hand over the money. The robber knows that without this incentive, he will likely not get anything. An incentive can also be a positive thing. If you have a small child, instead of giving the child candy immediately, you tell them, "There, if you finish your plate, you get some candy." The candy is an incentive for the boy or the girl now to finish their plate. And once they finish their plate, they likely don't even want candy anymore because they're full. What have you achieved as a parent? The child ate the plate, ate what was on the plate, so the child now has the vitamins the child needs. Because the child didn't want to eat the vegetables, but because you told the child to get a candy, now the child eats it. So the child is fed, it has he or she has the necessary vitamins, you achieve your goal. So incentives can be used to stimulate good behavior, and incentives can also be used the wrong way. Now, why am I talking about incentives here? Understand that any dysfunction or defect or just plain evil that's going on in the world only continues because there are incentives for that evil to continue. Look, you have dysfunction, you have dysfunctions, you have defects, and you have evil. Understand the difference. A dysfunction is just something that doesn't function properly. For example, you have a one-parent household because, the father left or the mother is going around, sleeping around, drinking all day instead of being with the kids. So that's a dysfunction. A defect is when people say things like parents have the right to harm their children, to hate their children. So children are allowed to be victimized because parents are entitled to harm their children, they're frustrated. So that's a defect, right over there. And evil would be when a defect becomes institutionalized and people don't even see anymore how wrong it is. With a dysfunction, you know something bad is going on and you know that something needs to be done because it's just dysfunction, it's not something that big. I'm not saying that a single parent household isn't a big thing, but you get what I'm saying. Dysfunction is just something that doesn't function properly. A defect is when a community has expectations that don't add up. And these expectations can cause danger. That's a defect. Evil is when defective expectations become institutionalized and people are conditioned into them so they can't see anymore how wrong and dangerous and abominable those expectations are. Now, whether it's just a dysfunction or a defect or just evil, there is always an incentive that keeps it going. Let me give an example, okay? If you have young people that keep hanging on the streets often, why are they on the streets? You can't say, "Oh, we don't want the young people to hang on the streets." Okay, what do you want them to do? No, we just don't want them on the streets. Now that's relief seeking because you only want to get rid of a manifestation you are against. But what are you going to replace the manifestation with? Someone that looks at the bigger picture will say, okay, those young men on the streets, why aren't they contributing to the community? Why aren't they starting families? Or why aren't they building stuff? And then others will look at it and say, after observation, those young men are often on the streets because they want to contribute to the community, they want to be significant in the community, but they're not allowed to, either due to their skin color or due to pressures in society. They will say, well, that's why they're on the streets, because when they're on the streets, they have familiarity with one another because they are going through similar things and they feel at home, they feel accepted. And then someone says, okay, if you want them off the streets, then you need to take away the incentive. And the incentive is that they are discriminated against or that they are neglected by the community. But then someone says, okay, if you need to remove that incentive, it means that they need to be incorporated in this community. But why don't people want them in the community? And then you look at that and you figure out, well, that there is no actual reason why they don't want those young men in the community. The only incentive for excluding those young men doesn't really have to do with their skin color, it just has to do with, by excluding those men, society has someone to blame when things go wrong. So that people don't have to look at themselves. So that's the incentive why they discriminate against those men. And now those men, because they face this violence, they now have incentive to hang on the streets and avoid stuff. So if you send out police officers to arrest them when they're on the streets, you're only fighting a symptom, and that will lead to more harm. Because now you will have bitterness in that same community because they face violence by the community in the form of exclusion, and now they face more violence because the little social comfort they have is taken away from them. And if you're not careful, your policy may generate generational violence. So, whether something is a dysfunction, or a defect, or just evil, there's always an incentive that keeps it going. If, for example, you enter an office and you say hello, and other people look at you in a very angry way, they may not fire you immediately, but after all you think, I don't want a job anymore. Why? Because you did not greet them in a formal way. Let's say you enter and say good morning, and they all say good morning to you. What's going on now? You feel comfortable. They treat you in a better way. So that will be an incentive for you to embrace this formal attitude that is expected of you at a job. In the workplace, they use incentives to keep you coming. Truth being told, if you would tell people out there that they have to go to work every day as a wage slave, if you just say that to them, if you don't work, give all your life and your life source to a company or to a boss, then you won't have any food and you will die. Nobody cares about you, know what happens to you. You just want society to keep functioning, so make sure you donate all your strength and all your health to society. If people would say it like this, and almost everyone would say, get out of here. I don't want that. No. They trick you into this cycle of exploitation where you are exploited by offering you incentives. They say things as, you need to contribute to society, you need to be part of the community, you can't live off someone else's money. They let you think that money has this intrinsic spiritual value, when it doesn't have any value in itself at all. So if you receive welfare, let's say $2,000 a month, the welfare check you receive is very high. Others will know this, will become upset with you because they see you're not working, yet you get paid. So now they become resentful towards you. And you, the one that receives the welfare, may feel, you know what? I'll rather find work. Why? Because if you keep receiving that paycheck and people are resentful towards you, you may become the target of psychic violence. And because because you prefer safety above having money for free, you decide, you know what, let me find a job, at least people won't bother me with their violence. So now there's an incentive for you to be trapped in this 9-to-5 cycle, even if you would have been better off with welfare. So you can even use incentives to trick people in destruction. That's when you use incentives the wrong way. Now look, as I mentioned before in this video, every dysfunction, every defect, and every evil has incentives that keeps them going. If, for example, you have, I will use the example of young men hang on the streets. If you have someone who dumps negative energy in the form of being direct, just throwing out what they think, and let's say every time this individual does this, everyone begins to question him why he said certain things. If he says, I have my reasons, and people say, you throw out things out of your mouth that were shocking, now you need to give explanation. Once people keep doing this, after a while they're very careful what they say. But if someone just drops this frustration, like acting out against someone, and everyone else as well is his opinion or he has his reasons, when people keep doing this, they are giving that individual an incentive to not face things. And if people say, well, he has a free will, you shouldn't invade his private space, the more society enables that negative behavior, which is dumping, with excuses as they have a free will, it's their life, their privacy, blah, 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 this and that. The more society does this, they are incentivizing self-destruction about themselves. Because that individual becomes upset and either cusses you out. Maybe they don't cuss you out, but they don't use swear words, but they just attack you verbally, often in a covert way by using a backhanded compliment or whatever. The moment they keep on violating people that way, they have the incentive that they are relieved after they do it. The darkest are the ones that will suffer psychological harm, that will suffer sleepless nights or self-esteem issues, but they will be at ease at night because they release their frustrations, so they don't have to face themselves. And why they remain this way? Because society covers them with hoaxes as free will, privacy, and all kinds of other nonsense concepts. So this whole free will thing is to enable people not to obey Christ. That's what it's all about. So why are we incentivizing evil on ourselves? Look, as I mentioned before, if you only attack a manifestation because you don't want to put up with it, that's relief seeking. To seek deliverance or a real solution, you need to uproot it from the root. And so any solution will require you to be active within that same solution. That means you have to be responsible for your reactions, for your avoidance, so you need to face yourself also in an honest, transparent way. And a lot of people don't want to do this. So when they're upset about something, they just want to drop the frustration or attack whatever they consider is the cause of their frustration, and they don't want to be left alone, they don't want to hear anything about it. And often society enables that. So there's an incentive for them to remain in relief seeking. If you want a dysfunction or a defect or an evil to stop, remove the incentive. But removing the incentive may be tricky, because then you will realize that it goes quite deep. But if you want the evil or the dysfunction or the defect to stop, you need to remove the incentive. As long as there's an incentive, it will not stop. Okay, I'm giving another example. Let's say that you have let's say that in a society, it often happens that wives cheat on their husbands. Just an example. It happens a lot. And as a result, often women become pregnant of men who are not their husbands, and the husbands think they are the father of the child while he's not the father. Now, this is quite dangerous for community, because when things like this happen, social trust will fade away. And without social trust, you have barbarity. Without social trust, you have limitless violence. So social trust is very important for any community to remain functional and safe. So when you look at the issue, let's say you're a sociologist or anthropologist, or anyway, you're there to look at the issue. You hear that in that society, a lot of the women love bad boys, the bad boy type. But then you think about it, this doesn't add up. That a woman wants to be with a man that treats them bad. And at the same time, they claim they want a man to take care of them. So you want to find out what's behind this. And then you figure out that in that same society, there is this victim mentality being preached onto women that whenever she has a defect, it's always the man's fault. Seldom are women in that community addressed for their faulty behavior or their faulty attitudes. So within that society, it became an incentive for women to behave badly with the men in their lives. Why? Because they are excused. They get a pat on the back out of sympathy when they mess up. It can be, let me say like this, it goes like this. If females in a community are addressed from a young age that they ought to be accountable for how they treat and relate to others, if that would be the case all the time, they wouldn't even dare to fall for the bad boy type, because they know if they get involved with the wrong guy, that wrong guy will mess up their mind, will mess up their lives, and when they do that, there will be a disgrace for the community, and they will have to face the disapproval of the community all the time. So that is a deterrent for them not to do it. But if you give women contraception and you tell them it's your life, your body, do whatever you want, nobody has the right to tell you anything. If you do that, and anytime there are defects happen because of this, you cover it up and you train the men that they need to keep their wives or girlfriends happy because that's their life's mission. When you do that, you breed a generation of men that will not hold their wives nor girlfriends, or say women in general, accountable. So now the women now have an incentive not to face themselves. They can now almost do whatever they want, no matter how narcissistic it is, because they know that society has their back. They can always go to some church where they can use the victim role to trick a guy into a wedlock. And after they're in a wedlock, they have a grip on the man. If there's divorce, the state will likely choose her side, so she knows she wins. So that's an incentive right over there. So if you want the marriages and the families to restore in a community, remove the incentive for wrong behavior. That is wrong behavior of men or wrong behavior of women. You need to remove the incentive. That means changing the institutions or changing the attitudes within that community. And that may take a while to do that, but if you want the evil or dysfunction or the fact to stop, you need to remove the incentive. Do not attack symptoms and expect long-term change for the better. Long-term change for the better will only occur, it will only happen when you uproot things that ought to be uprooted and when you work for the better. Don't just attack a symptom and expect better to come. It's not working that way. You're only relieving a situation when you do that. The same way you want violence to stop in a community, you need to remove the incentive. Why do people become violent? Because they want relief. And if that relief that they get after being violent is not challenged by the community, now you have an incentive for them to remain violent. As long as people have the right, have the reasons, and those excuses which they call reasons are not challenged, they'll keep doing the same things over and over again, they won't stop. Or if people are desperate, they don't see any other option than to be violent, then they need to be offered better alternatives, and they need to be provoked to go after those better alternatives. That's also a way to remove an incentive for negativity, is by giving far better and superior alternatives. Too many people, when they face evil or dysfunction or defects, they lash out against it and they flee. They want to be left alone. No, that's relief seeking. And that's contributing to the problem. That's being part of the problem. What are your alternatives? Which superior alternatives do you offer or do you work on? Because by offering a far better and far more superior alternative or alternatives, by doing that, you are removing the excuse to remain in the darkness. Because as long as you don't provide better alternatives, people will know there are better alternatives, and then they have a legitimate reason to say, well, that's all we know. And if that's all they know, then that's all they know. Even if you know that what they're involved in is wrong or is bad, they don't know any better, they don't have any better. So don't contribute to the dysfunction by attacking those who can't know any better. What are your alternatives? I'm telling you, whether it's a black community or an African community or Arab community, Chinese community, white community, whatever community it is, every dysfunction, every defect, and every evil continues because it is incentivized by that society. And often, as a believer, when you address this, they will turn on you. Because then you will see that there are short-term benefits that people are clinging on to. And that's why they incentivize the violence. So just look at the bigger picture. Don't look at things this way. Look at the bigger picture. Look at the context. And as a believer, through prayer, through fasting, through declarations, you remove the incentive. And you let the Holy Spirit guide you in your physical and social actions in how to further remove incentive. Don't expect long-term change for the better if you don't remove the incentive for the evil, dysfunction, or defect that's going on. As long as the incentive or incentives are there, it will continue. Well, that's it for now. Keep agreeing with Christ and be at peace.